Green Acres turned a Manhattan lawyer's midlife crisis into one of television's strangest farm experiments. Premiering in 1965, it uprooted Eddie Albert's Oliver Wendell Douglas from a comfortable New York legal career and dropped him into a rundown farm in Hooterville alongside Eva Gabor's couture-clad Lisa Douglas, Tom Lester's eager farmhand E.B. Dawson, Pat Buttram's scheming salesman Mr. Haney, and Frank Cady's steady shopkeeper Sam Drucker, all orbiting around a pig who watched television and a town only loosely connected to reality. Across 170 episodes from 1965 to 1971, the series blended barnyard slapstick with sophisticated wordplay. Yet behind the cornfields, canned laughter, and that unforgettable theme song was a saga of recycled radio ideas, near-miscasting decisions, rigid scripts, surreal animal performers, and a cancellation driven by network image rather than audience loyalty. Here are 15 surprising facts about Green Acres, ending with a look at how the show gleefully broke its own reality, even staging a play about its sister series inside the world of Hooterville.1. The farm started on the radio 15 years before Oliver and Lisa ever set foot in Hooterville. Their story was already on the air, and almost nobody remembers it. In summer 1950, CBS aired a short-lived radio series called Granby's Green Acres, following city banker John Granby, who drags his skeptical wife Martha to a rundown farm to live the simple life. He dreams of fresh air and honest work. She's not entirely convinced. The joke was the same one that would later define the TV show. People who thought they understood farming discovering, week after week, that they didn't. But Granby's Green Acres had none of the surreal edge. No pigs enrolled in school, no talking animals, no characters winking at the audience or acknowledging other shows. It was straightforward, gentle comedy that ran just 8 episodes as a summer replacement for Lux Radio Theater before quietly disappearing. Years later, writer-producer Jay Summers went back to that basic premise for television, but didn't simply adapt the old scripts. He amplified everything odd about it, blending reality until the farm became a place where logic was optional. The result felt brand new, even though its roots went back a decade. Granby's modest radio experiment had planted the seed. Green Acres let it grow into something far stranger. Point 2. Oliver and Lisa could have been different. It's hard to picture anyone but Eddie Albert and Eva Gabor in these roles, yet the show nearly cast very differently. Producers first approached Don Amitch, a bigger name at the time, for Oliver. He passed, opening the door for Albert, whose mix of earnestness and exasperation defined the character. Lisa was just as tricky. Marcia Hunt and Janet Blair both tested for the part, but producer Paul Henning insisted on Eva Gabor despite CBS's worries that her thick Hungarian accent would confuse audiences. Henning argued her accent, elegance, and timing were exactly right, and the network relented. Gabor's line readings and malapropisms turned what could have been a flat stereotype into a fully realized character, giving the series both its heart and its bite. Point 3. Eva Gabor nearly said no. Gabor herself almost turned the role down. By the mid-1960s, she was an established film and Broadway star, glamorous and firmly at home in Beverly Hills, and worried Lisa Douglas could become a one-note joke, a high-maintenance socialite complaining about farm chores. Her husband at the time reportedly convinced her the role had potential if she played it with sincerity rather than condescension, and kept her natural accent instead of smoothing it out. She agreed, and gave Lisa a genuine sweetness beneath the glamour, letting the character be confused by Hooterville without ever condescending to it, making her the definitive image of the show. Point 4. Eddie Albert became the real thing on screen. Oliver arrived in Hooterville convinced he understood agriculture, only to fail spectacularly at almost every turn. Off-screen, Albert started out nearly as inexperienced, having grown up in Minneapolis with no real background in farming. When he signed on, he couldn't operate the equipment his character talked so confidently about. Tom Lester, who played E.B., was the one cast member who actually knew how to milk cows, handle fields, and repair machinery, skills Albert had to simulate convincingly for the cameras. But something shifted in Albert as the series went on. He'd always cared about nature, but living on a fictional farm seemed to deepen that interest, and he became increasingly outspoken about environmental issues, championing organic gardening and raising alarms about pesticides like DDT at a time when those concerns were only starting to enter the mainstream. By 1970, he'd taken part in creating the first Earth Day and was growing organic vegetables in a greenhouse at his Pacific Palisades home. After the show ended, he founded the Eddie Albert World Trees Foundation, served as national chairman of the Boy Scouts of America's conservation program, and hosted TV specials on environmental awareness, a real-life transformation his fictional farmer never managed. Point 5. The theme song said it all. Rather than hire anonymous singers, producers had Albert and Gabor perform the theme themselves, an unusual choice for the era. Written by Vic Mizzy, also behind the Addams Family theme, the song functioned as a miniature story. Albert's verse celebrates farm life, Gabor's answers with a love letter to Times Square and penthouses. In under a minute, viewers got the show's entire premise as a musical argument between husband and wife, reportedly recorded in just a take or two. Later shows like The Monkees and All in the Family followed suit with stars singing their own themes, but Green Acres got their first. Point 6. No improv allowed. Despite its loose, whimsical tone, Green Acres ran under a strict no improvising policy. Director Richard L. Bear and the writers built episodes around exact comic rhythms and delayed payoffs, so a single changed word could unravel a scene. Eddie Albert later said the writing was tight enough that improving on it would have been pointless. The cast never changed a word. The one exception was Eva Gabor, whose Hungarian accent produced unplanned verbal quirks and twisted idioms that the writers noticed and began writing into future scripts, turning her Aviisms into a signature of the show. 7. The animals were citizens too. Hooterville treated its livestock as full-fledged neighbors. Arnold Ziffel, officially Fred and Doris Ziffel's pig, was raised as their son. He watched TV, did homework, and had a report card people discussed seriously, his grunts universally understood by everyone except Oliver, who insisted he was just a pig. Lisa likewise treated Eleanor the cow and Alice the chicken as confidants. The premise peaked in the episode The Birthday Gift, when Lisa receives a talking horse, Mr. Fred, voiced by impressionist Rich Little doing a James Stewart impression, a wink at Mr. Ed that never returned after its single appearance. Point 8. Mr. Haney's Elvis connection. Pat Buttram based the swindling Mr. Haney on Colonel Tom Parker, Elvis Presley's real-life manager, whom Buttram had crossed paths with when Parker was still a carnival barker hustling novelty acts. Parker wasn't an actual military colonel, the title was honorary, adopted as part of his showman persona. Buttram borrowed Parker's relentless pitch, charm, and hard-to-place accent to build a character who could sell Oliver broken machinery and bad bargains with total confidence, later acknowledging Parker as his model. Point 9. TV's original shared universe. Today, shared universes are everywhere, but in the 1960s, long before anyone coined the term, Hooterville pioneered the idea. Paul Henning created the Beverly Hillbillies in 1962, following the Clampett family from the Ozarks to California. A year later, Petticoat Junction premiered, centered on the Shady Rest Hotel and introducing Hooterville as a rural hub. When Green Acres arrived in 1965 as a direct spin-off of Petticoat Junction, planting Oliver and Lisa's farm down the road from the Shady Rest, 3 separate sitcoms suddenly shared the same geography and increasingly the same characters. Sam Drucker became the glue binding this world together, running the general store, handling the post office, and editing the local paper. He appeared regularly on both Petticoat Junction and Green Acres, sometimes in the same week, and even crossed into the Beverly Hillbillies when a storyline sent him to visit the Clampetts. Other characters wandered freely too. Uncle Joe Carson turned up from Petticoat Junction. The Bradley sisters appeared as dates for E.B. Dawson, and the Ziffels, with their pig Arnold, migrated from Petticoat Junction to become Green Acres regulars. Point 10. Where exactly is Hooterville? The show deliberately kept its setting unplaceable. Some episodes tie Hooterville to Illinois, with Oliver flying through Chicago. Beverly Hillbillies references to the Ozarks suggest Missouri or Arkansas instead. Inconsistent signs listing changing population and elevation numbers undercut any real clue, and the cast's mismatched accents, Gabor's European lilt, Buttram's southern drawl, others' Midwestern twang, added to the confusion. This was intentional. An unplaceable Hooterville freed the writers from the constraints of real geography, turning the town into a floating comic zone. Point 11. Doris Ziffel, Arnold's devoted mother, was originally played by Barbara Pepper, a former Goldwyn girl. As Pepper's serious heart condition worsened, she had to step away from the show after 1968 and died the following year. Rather than write the character out, producers recast friend Ryan, who carried Doris through the final seasons without any in-story acknowledgement of the change. So many casual viewers never noticed. When the cast reunited for the 1990 TV movie Return to Green Acres, Doris was mentioned as having died, a quiet nod to Pepper. Ryan didn't appear in the special point 12. The truth about Arnold Ziffel persistent. Grim rumor claims Arnold the Pig was roasted and eaten at the show's wrap party. It actually began as a joke. Tom Lester, tired of being asked what happened to Arnold, sarcastically told a reporter the cast had eaten him, and the story took on a life of its own. In reality, multiple trained pigs played Arnold over the run, cared for by professional animal trainer Franken, who was so attached to his Arnold that he kept the pig's ashes in an urn after death. Arnold even won 3 Patsy Awards, the top honor for animal performers. Point 13. The rural Purge Green Acres wasn't cancelled for lack of viewers. In its final season, it still ranked 34th out of 96 programs and continued to win its time slot. It fell victim instead to the Rural Purge, a larger shift in which CBS decided to reposition the network toward younger, more urban viewers, an audience advertisers increasingly prize, and began clearing its schedule of anything that looked too country. It didn't matter if the programs were successful or beloved. Green Acres, the Beverly Hillbillies, Petticoat Junction, Lassie, and others were canceled in rapid succession, even as fans still tuned in. CBS President Robert D. Wood drove that strategy, working alongside programming chief Fred Silverman to remake the network's image, clearing space for groundbreaking urban comedies like All in the Family, The Mary Tyler Moore Show, and later MASH. For the actors, the end of the series was a turning point rather than a full stop. Eddie Albert earned a second Academy Award nomination for The Heartbreak Kid in 1972, played the warden in The Longest Yard, co-starred in the crime drama Switch, and continued his environmental activism for decades before dying in 2005 at 99. Eva Gabor shifted increasingly into voice work, lending elegance to Disney's Miss Bianca in the Rescuers films, launched fashion and beauty ventures, appeared regularly on Match Game and Hollywood Squares, and reunited with Albert on Broadway before her death in 1995 at 76. The two are buried near each other at Westwood Village Memorial Park. Even in their final resting place, the central couple of Green Acres remained neighbors. 14. Return to Green Acres almost 2 decades after cancellation. The 1990 TV movie Return to Green Acres reunited the surviving cast. It flips the original premise. Oliver and Lisa, back in Manhattan and unhappy despite their old high society comforts, return to Hooterville when a land developer threatens to buy up the town for an industrial complex. Oliver's legal efforts fail, but the townspeople save the day themselves by convincing the developer the land sits on an earthquake fault. The film ends with Oliver and Lisa choosing to stay for good. The farm life they once argued about in song has become home. Point 15. Green Acres got meta. The show loved breaking the fourth wall. Lisa once referenced Eva Gabor's real-life sister Zsa Zsa directly, a joke that worked for casual viewers and Gabor family trivia buffs alike. In one especially inventive episode, Hooterville's residents stage a community theater production of the Beverly Hillbillies, the very show sharing their fictional universe, with Lisa playing Granny and Oliver playing Jethro. Rather than breaking the story, these winks enriched it, letting Green Acres acknowledge exactly what it was. A comedy about city people on a farm that took real pleasure in letting the audience in on the joke. Which of these facts changed the way you see Hooterville the most?